Well, here we are again, and by again, it's because for some strange reason, our earlier interview disappeared. So now you're going to see the interview all over again, though we will try to correct any of the errors that I made the first time. So today's we are talking with Julian Miholics, and Julian is over here, and Julian's work is over here. Julian is the youngest ceramic artist that we've ever taken on to show permanently. A graduate of Beal. Beal, of course, is Canada's premier secondary art school and has been the place where people like Greg Kernow, Patterson Ewan, Herb Aris, who?
Nancy Latchford.
Nancy Latchford, oh my God, yeah. Who I also show. Marianne Fisher. Okay, that's the trouble when you mention one name and then somebody says, "Hey, you forgot me." Anyway, but today we're talking about Julian. So as we were saying, Julian, and you went to Beal, and you studied under Kim Davey, who was the head of the ceramic department. But you started with ceramics there.
Yes.
So prior to that, though, you've always been interested in art.
Always drawing. Always joked around with how I was sitting at the table as a kid, just going crazy with crayons. So it's always been something that I wanted to look into. And in 8th grade, I wanted to professionally do art as a career. I wasn't sure what. Maybe something illustration based. Then my high school teacher at my previous school said, "Go to Beal." So I did.
Okay, so when you went to Beal, they start you off the first year where you get to try everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was it, how was it that you decided ceramic was the medium that really, really appealed to you?
Kim Davey started us off with making any form we wanted, and so I started with sculptures, small creatures, somewhat like this, like these ones here.
Yeah.
Weird, whimsical critter monsters. And so I started making those forms, and then I found it was just such a different medium aside from illustration, to have a 3D form. You could move, touch, handle, be functional every day if you chose so.
Yeah. So when you moved, like the little, these are pinch pot, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you started with the pinch pot and then the decoration, did you find the transition from paper to clay relatively easy, or did it just seem to?
What I found really helped some of the transitions. Well, I used to do a lot of hand painting with a brush, but after you got introduced to slip trailing,
Right.
for line art, I found that really helped in terms of illustration wise.
Yeah.
Then I learned that there was underglazed transfers and stuff you could do. That
So
helped a lot.
as you moved into getting, one of the things that's obvious, from your, all of these are based on reality. Like
Yes.
this little guy here, which is really, really quite complex because you've got all these little pieces, and then explain to me the research that you do to get to this. Were you looking at scientific journals or making up out of your head?
Yeah, this was a psychophage trilobite. I went to scientific papers to see the specific mouth it needed, which turned out to be a carnivorous crustacean-eating creature. How its tines worked. We're talking about how I got to this. Oh, sketches too.
The sketches.
A lot of sketches to understand maybe how something might look.
Yeah, because you're
3D
taking
space.
something that's
Yes.
also you would have only seen as pictures of. There aren't any of these running around the garden.
Oh yeah, just a few fossils that you can look at. And
Yeah.
that's it.
So when you're doing these, so you actually do then a lot of research into these forms. These are based on this is based on.
That's Eutyrannus, which lived in Arctic China. It got to near sub-zero temperature, so it was a fluffy tyrannosaurid, basically.
Oh, cool. And then, as you took these forms that are based on, many of them on prehistoric animals. I mean, this looks like something that's gone from being...
Dunkleosteus.
Yeah, so this is actually a fish?
Yes.
And then these are the underwater... very clever to you. I mean, that's what, in 18th century porcelain, they would have figures, and they would end up using... the figures would have like a plant or something to hold it up.
It's something I really want to experiment more with like standing human figures, for
Yeah,
example.
so they would strategically place, a tree trunk or a branch, something to give the stability.
Yeah.
Because you were mentioning in our earlier, now lost interview, the difficulty in having standing figures.
Yeah, we don't have a horse anymore, but...
No, the horse didn't break. The horse has found a new home.
Of course.
Yeah.
The horse, of course.
But it would have been a good example of how the forms stand, because you need to distribute the weight so evenly. If you mess up one leg, it's going to slump and continue to slump, and it can eventually just fall
Yeah, you don't
over.
want a gimpy horse. Yeah. And I think one of the other things that's really cool is that in your, as you explored sculpture, you've also incorporated your trans identity into your sculpture and being very affirming of the trans community. And I know that your Instagram account, of which I'm one of the 67,000 people that follow you, I think it's really important for people, especially young people going through their own trans life, to see that there is somebody who is successful out and proud and incorporating their identity into their work, and that work is finding an audience. I mean, one of the interesting things is that your work, because we've been showing you now for 5 years, and we've sold a significant number of pieces. But what I think is really interesting is that the people that are buying your work, we've been selling them to like art collectors, people who have really major collections, be it of ceramic in particular or paintings, but art in general. And they are really reacting positively to your work and loving it. And they're not trans. So your identity as a trans man has not limited you to a trans audience. And I think that is really, so the universality of your art and how it's, and how people are connecting with it is pretty cool. Like this piece here, the person that just bought that, who is currently living in Saudi, they were identifying with, the turtle. And perhaps, what was the influence? Like, how did the turtle come to be?
The turtle, I use animals often to depict scenes of LGBT identity, and this obviously has symbolism of coming out of its shell. And,
Right.
I like to use repetition or pairs of animals to show solidarity in the community, and that's a large number of people, that you gotta stick out for one another and take care of each other.
Well, and I think what's really cool, like here, you're talking that you use pairs, but often you will use, the triad, and you were commenting earlier about the triad and the family unit.
Yeah, even here with a Celtic knot, I used just that number 3 or number 4 sometimes, like the triad comes to me a lot for a constant reoccurring theme.
Mm-hmm.
That solidarity.
Yeah, well, I mean, here you've got the triad, and then you've also got the figures, and then you also have, of course, the acknowledgement of the trans flag, which is there, and maybe you could turn that around for the camera so that people, there's so much going on. Actually, if you lift it up so that, because I mean, you've got so much going on here. You've got even it's interesting, like the 3 houses.
Mm-hmm, 3 houses.
And then here, you were I thought this was the idea of the cemetery with the rainbow flag is kind of interesting, because so many people, of course, in the LGBTQIA community And then you've got, the pansy. And then you have, I love the dinosaur. I mean, I think that with all of your illustrations, there's something about these little guys that just always fascinates me. And then you've got the happy face and the family, and the where the hell is it? There's something else. Oh yeah, here you've got. There's so many, and these little guys, the little worms. The worms again are just like the turtles. You were saying that they.
Yeah, worms coming out of the ground like after rain. Maybe you'd be seeding again after maybe a traumatic time coming out, or maybe they just go back in the ground happy as can be.
Yeah, the importance of coming out while the
yeah.
while the rain is pouring down, and but this little guy, which is what I'm trying to remember because we did the other interview that just got lost.
About some making. And,
yeah, and here you've got the stained clay, which Julian doesn't do as often. This is heading off to Halifax. Brian has a collector down there that he makes sure always gets significant little pieces for his collection. Brian's the curator of the JD collection. And then we've got, and here's another vessel. Once again, the triad, the rainbow flag, and here we've got the rabbit. I'm the year of the rabbit for anybody wanting to know. And then, look, again, 3 Bs.
We got what does it say, little gay world on there too, but also.
Oh yeah.
Also T for T, which is slang for trans in the dating community.
Oh yeah, right there. So it's all all of the work, and then of course this is really interesting because I don't recall you doing many natural figures, as it were. Mm-hmm. And here you've got taking the intramuscular testosterone. Yeah. And here is exactly what is in that vial. It's really cool. One of the interesting things, we've been shipping Julian's work all over North America. So the audience and Julian was just saying he's been shipping his work all over the world. In particular, he's done, where the hell is it? Where's that? Oh, here. So here is a design this design on black and white is on a T-shirt, and the first run of T-shirts, 50 T-shirts, sold out immediately. As a matter of fact, the person who printed the T-shirts was saying that it was the fastest sellout that they've ever seen, even faster than people who have a longer history of doing ceramic. And then there's my little pin there. So there's a multidisciplinary work here. And this is all about metamorphosis and change. And here you've got the caterpillar. And this is, I'll be cursing Julian a little bit later on today because this piece has to be packed and it's heading off to, where's it going, Brian?
California.
It's going off to California. And those poor people in California, hopefully that house is still there.
Yeah, we're talking about change, and there's many insects with that metamorphosize, but even there's the pattern of the moon cycle on the underside of the wings.
Very nice.
So it's quite remarkable, but as I say, this is the piece. I don't know why it is, but the piece that we just shipped, what was it we shipped off to Virginia?
A little tiny horse.
A little horse, again, that went off to Virginia.
Yep.
And then this is going off to California. And that is going off to Halifax. And
hopefully that's going to New Brunswick.
Which one?
The plate,
hopefully. Yeah. So, but it's, and then I got to show people because one of the things that Brian and I, with the artists that we show, I mean, we only show, we've got really strict rules. We show what we like by whom we like. That's really, because it's very hard to get excited about the work of somebody that you can't connect with or whose work is mediocre. So we show the top people, and this is one of the this is an early Miholics, And you always know when an artist is really starting to get fame when you just refer to them as the last name and expect people to know exactly who it is. But this one was, I fell in love with you got one from that group too,
Yeah.
didn't you? And so this is from 5 years ago. And, it's interesting when you look at this and then you look at the other ones, how there is the complexity of the surface decoration is getting more and more intricate. And for any of you who really want to, I think that Julian is going to be Canada's Grayson Perry. Grayson Perry is this extraordinary, how would you refer to Grayson? Because he's not transgender,
He's a cross-dresser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does a bit of cross-dressing.
Bit. He does.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit.
But he's this extraordinary artist from Scotland, I think.
Oh.
I think he's in Scotland. Anyway, his work Brian and I, when we were in England, went and saw the exhibition, and there's just, to me, there's a link in the
decoration.
And I think you're going to be our. Like I said, the people that are buying your work are the people that are collecting your work. And I think it's really wonderful. Like when you look over here, and here you've got all trans bodies are beautiful, always. I wish that we hadn't sold it. I really wish that we had kept. Remember the one you did in white?
Oh yeah, me trans.
Oh yeah.
And
I think
it
it's
was
still in
just,
London. I think it's still in London.
Can't remember who I sold
I
it
can't
to.
remember. Yeah, Julian did this extraordinary figure that was not decorated, and it
saw
just
that too.
said, "What did it just say on it?" It just said
Me
something.
trans.
Me trans, and that was it. And I wish that we had kept that, because I think when it comes to the continuity of expression, that was right at the beginning of your career, and it was sort of like you were a blank canvas. And now your canvas is really expanding. But I think that for the 67,000 people that follow you, I think you give a lot of validation and hope to young trans people. And I know that what I think is really cool is that you don't. It's not your interest in the political nature of things isn't just trans. I mean, you're quite political in your postings and very, very supportive in terms of human rights and all that. Like you were just telling me, what's that group in Toronto?
Oh, Soy Toronto. Yeah, I've donated to their queer youth groups before, and then putting together a raffle for a ceramic form to donate to their Black queer youth group.
Yeah. And one of the things that last night that I was thinking about when I was thinking of the interview is that not wanting to make any of the errors that I have seen people like much more talented than I in interviewing. For example, that infamous interview with Barbara Walters that she had with, was it Naomi? Who the hell was she? Anyway, she was doing, it was totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
So, thinking, damn it, I don't want to make any mistakes. But one of the other things that I find is that the reality is that just as it's not enough to be non-racist, it's really important to be anti-racist.
Mm-hmm.
I think similarly, it's not enough to not be transphobic. I think it is important to be anti-transphobic, because there are those people who have privilege, be it white privilege, whatever, gender privilege, they need to realize that people need support. And I think that what is really, to me, very important, not just about how successful your work is or how dramatic your work is, but the reality is that you put yourself out there. I mean, you have spoken about your transition, and I think it's awesome what you do, and I think that we're very fortunate to be able to show you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and like I say, kick-ass work, folks, and it's collectors that are collecting it, and so get in early and support an extraordinary young man. Julian, thank you so much. And
No
don't
problem,
lose this
thank you.
interview. I could go through this again. Thank you very much.